Hey, Shalom Akim. Before we begin this lesson, we want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises unto Yahweh,
Hawa,
Bahashem,
Bahashem,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahushai,
Bahasham,
Bahashem,
Rakakwadash.
Rakakwadesh.
Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth, and a sincere Shalom to the hopeful like this out there listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom. All right, Akim. So today we want to go into, the importance of not being unequally yoked with unbelievers. It's important to know who your circle is and who you're hanging out with. Okay, so to get started, we're going to start in First Peter chapter 1 verse 16.
We have First Peter chapter 1, verse 16. It says, because it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy.
God, yeah, be ye holy for I am holy. So we're going to go into this word holy. I got the blue letter pulled up here. It's hagios. Um and what does it mean? Most holy thing, a saint, most holy thing, pure, morally blameless or religious, ceremonially consecrated, sacred, right? You got that word sacred, which what does the word sacred means? Basically the word holy is going into being set apart. Okay. That's really what it means. So the Lord is telling us to be set apart because he is set apart. You know, the Lord divided not only the nations, okay, because the scripture says that the Israelites are a holy people. But even among the Israelites, you have um, the holy and then the unholy as well, man, because you got two-thirds out here that are not holy. They're not doing what they're supposed to. And then you got the hopeful elect. Okay. So we can't be like buddy buddy with people who are in this world, of course, heathens, but even two-thirds, because, you might agree on certain things, but ultimately, when it comes to this truth, okay, you're going to get offended pretty quickly, especially if you're zealous. Okay, they're going to start talking about, oh, well, why you always got to bring God into it, or oh, God is not black. You can't make up your own religion. And, they're going to start scoffing and they just don't get it. You can beat them over the head with the Bible. Okay, but at the end of the day, the Lord just didn't choose them. All right. You got anything out?
La,
With that, we're just gonna go to Amos chapter 3, verse 3.
verse 3.
And it's also not about just being offended by, being annoyed by being around these people, but that nigga behavior, for lack of a better word, is gonna rub off on you if you keep hanging out with those people. You know, you're gonna learn their ways, and at the end of the day, they can also be a danger to the ministry as well.
Like he says, learn not the ways of the heathen.
Yeah, learn not the way of the heathen. And two-thirds of our people are in the spirit of Esau. That's why Yahushai, he told the wicked scribes and Pharisees that they are of their father the devil. But who was he talking to? He was talking to Israelites, but they were in the spirit of Esau. They were coming in that spirit, you know?
That kind of reminds me of, when they were speaking out to the Gentiles, the heathenistic, not heathenistic, the Hellenistic Jews, the
Hmm.
Greek speaking Jews, and basically, they wanted to take on all of those customs as far as wearing the robes, being naked, being
Yep.
circumcised again, and
Mhm.
going to the going to the gymnasium, all that
Yeah.
good stuff. And ultimately, like you said, being brought into this fold, you're sanctified, you're separated from those people. So I got that Amos 3:3 pulled up. If you want me to read that real quick.
Khan Baba Kosha.
It says in Amos 3, chapter 3, verse 3. Can two walk together except they be agreed?
God, can two walk together except they be agreed? That's self-explanatory. Because if you, for example, let's give an analogy. Let's say you want to save some money and you want to move in with somebody as a roommate. Let's say two men just trying to save money, right? You got one who's in the truth and one who's in the world. Okay, and they both cohabitate. All right. How can they really get along for too long, before they clash? So I want to go into this word walk, and it's yawad, and it means to fix, to appoint, to assemble, to meet, to betroth, to appoint, to assign, to designate, to meet by appointment, gather, to cause to meet, to be fixed. Um, let's take a look here. Point. Let's get it in the etymology real quick. It says the etymology, um, just kind of skipping down, it says by 13th century as behave, act, or live in a certain manner, right? So you're gonna always live two different ways. You're gonna think two different ways. You're gonna walk two different ways. So it's not wise to cohabitate with someone who's in the world or to really be buddy buddy with them, man. Because at the end of the day, they're not gonna have your back. The scriptures talks about how in the last days, um, people are gonna betray each other to death. Just thinking of something that comes to mind is when the MOTB is mandated. That worldly roommate, they're gonna get that chip real quick, man. And if you don't get it, they're gonna be the first ones to snitch. You know, it's just like what happened with the C-19 situation. You had all type of family and friends splitting apart because of that political bullshit, you know? But yeah, that's pretty much it with that. I want to also mention, you don't want to be unequally yoked, but also you want to learn the difference. It doesn't mean that you gotta walk around, you know, calling Esau the devil and calling, Jake two-thirds. You got to use wisdom as well. So I want to grab Romans 12, verse 18, Baba Kosha.
You don't. Okay.
Because there's balance. There's balance to things. You don't want to make someone who's in the world, you don't want to make them your best friend, but at the same time, the scripture says use the world, not abusing it. So, you're gonna have acquaintances, you know, that are in the world, maybe even heathen as well, because they could be useful to you and they could also you got to get along with people just to be a part of society.
I got Romans 12 and 18. It says, "But now hath the Most High set the members, every one of them, in the body, and it hath pleased him."
So like, yeah, you
Oh,
sure you're reading
yeesh, nah, that's not Salaki. That's on my end. Gosh, I was in Corinthians.
that's a while.
Anyways, 12 and 13. No, 12
18.
and 12 and 18. Romans 12 and 18, it says, if it be possible, yeah, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably amongst all, well, peaceably with all men.
Con. Yeah, living peaceably with all men is just going into, being cordial, getting along with people, but at the same time, there's a difference between that and making someone your best buddy or hanging around a certain group of people that is wicked that's going to rub off on you or cause you to get in trouble, because I believe the brother, I think you were saying it earlier about a scripture that how it's going into you could get caught up in things if you um think you mentioned it the other day about an angry man. You get caught up in his shenanigans, right? He's going to cause you to get put to death. I think that's in the Apocrypha where it talks about don't be friends with an angry man, roughly paraphrasing. You could imagine you with one of these one of these Jakes in the world that thinks he's all big and bad, and the cops pull you over for whatever. And next thing you know, the Jake is all up in the cop's face. Next thing you know, he could cause both of you to get shot. So you got to be careful who you hang around, who you let into your house, you know, really who you hang around, because that's gonna bring bring things that are unprofitable into your life. Okay, which is the main point we're gonna get in this scripture here in the Second Corinthians. So we're gonna go to Second Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14, which really that's gonna kind of go into everything in more depth.
6 and 18.
14.
14. Okay, Con. We have Second Corinthians 6 and 14. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness?
Gone. Right there, why communion has light with darkness, man. Because what we have is this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Bible. We know how things work. We know that the ways of this world are wicked. But you got somebody else who might be a friend. Let's say you got a close friend, but then he thinks what you believe is madness. He's big into feminism and worshiping on these celebrities, and he doesn't even know that voting doesn't matter and shit like that. That type of person, you're gonna clash with them all the time, man. As soon as you
Mhm.
bring out an opinion on what's going on, they're gonna think you're crazy. Oh, this guy said, so who are you voting for? I don't understand. Are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? I mean, this guy's helping our people.
Bro, I just be telling people I don't give a fuck. I don't care about
Yeah.
politics. But it's like obviously, people I think human nature, like people know right from wrong.
Hmm.
And people who just like think one side is always correct, it's
Yeah.
like man, you would be slow to think something like that because it's all to support one agenda and one agenda only. The end of Babylon. So man, who really cares at this? Like, who
Yeah.
cares anymore?
Exactly. That's what we want, the end of this, because we have no continuing city. Jake wants
Gone.
to stay here in Babylon. Jake wants to build here. That's why when Obama became president, people thought, you would have thought Yahushua came back by how people were celebrating. But nothing changed. Our people are still in the ghettos, being shot down on the street. So, like the brother said, the end of Babylon, Yahushua, that's the true solution. And the people of this world are not with Yahushua. They're not with the spirit of this truth. So what point is there to even be friends with them? You could be friends with them on the surface if you're talking about sports, you're talking about, whatever.
Gone.
But when it gets to a deep conversation, that's when you're gonna realize, man, fuck this motherfucker. And he's gonna be thinking the same way, fuck you. So it's no point.
Gone. And you want me to continue in Corinthians?
Go ahead.
All right, so going into 15, it says, in what concord has Mahashiach or Christ with Belial, Belial, or
Hmm.
or what part hath he that believeth, yeah, that believeth with a fiddle?
An infidel, yeah. God is basically saying the same thing, you know, because we're two completely different mindsets. You know, same thing with these plantation Christians, man. Like an example, a lot of us got parents that are in the plantation Christian church. And the only thing we can agree with is that we believe in the Bible, but they don't know the true interpretation. All right. So once it gets deep into the deep conversation, that's when you disagree and you don't want to dishonor your parents and talk crazy. So it's best to just not even go into that topic. Right. And that's just one example. All right. But
Um,
yeah, no communion with light and darkness, man. Con, go ahead.
going into verse 16, it says, and what agreement hath the temple of the Most High with idols? For ye are the temple of the living power, as the Most High hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their power, and they shall be my people.
God, yeah, we the temples of the Most High, man. Our bodies. We make our bodies a living sacrifice. These people in the world ain't gonna be with it at the end of the day, so they're not gonna understand us. They're not gonna understand what we're doing, and ultimately, there are enemies on this side. You know, they all about these idols, this idol worship, and because this whole society is set up on that Baal worship, Satan worship, and you can see it in these celebrities, and then the people that follow these celebrities and follow the ways of Babylon, that's their spirit, whether they know it or not. They think they might be a Christian, so-called, but they're really an idol worshiper at the end of the day.
God. And I got that precept that you quoted earlier.
Con, go
It's
ahead.
so there's one dang. So there's one in the Apocrypha and there's one in Proverbs.
Con, you
So
can bring whichever one you think is best out.
God, it says, make no fellowship with an
Uh,
angry man.
which one's that one?
That's Proverbs.
Con, what's the scripture?
It says, make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, because you go with an angry man and he's gonna get you in trouble. He might get into a fight. Next thing you know, dudes had a gun, dudes had a knife. Then you both getting stabbed up for his stupidity, man. For
Mhm.
his dumb mistake, you know? But what was the chapter and verse out for the
Look,
Proverbs?
that was verse chapter 22,
Mm-hmm.
verse 24 through 25.
Con. Yeah, beautiful. Con, but we can continue in Second Corinthians 6:16 or 17.
Uh, Wherefore come out from among them, and ye shall separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you.
Yeah. Yeah. Not being among them because we being in this truth, all right, it's best to be around the brotherhood. Okay, because like they say in the world, you are the average of the five people you hang around. So you hang around these wickeds, you're gonna fall out of the truth. That's another way you could fall out of the truth. Because you're gonna start taking counsel from them, you're gonna start learning their ways, you're gonna start acting like them. And next thing you know, you're gonna think to yourself the same stupid thoughts they think. Well, why am I in this truth? What's the point? Because they don't see a point, and we see a point. And we got to continue in that mindset that there is a point and that this thing is the only, like for me, one thing that comes to mind in this truth is the only thing that makes sense. In this world of lies and bullshit and deception and evil, this truth is the only thing that makes sense. So who gives a fuck what a nigga or a spick in the world thinks? Let them think what the fuck they want, and we're gonna think what we're gonna think. you know and this is why the more you're in this truth, the less you want to deal with these people in the world, man. At first, if you're new, you might think, well, it's okay, but it's really not okay, man, because they are really, Satan could use them as a weapon against you. The spiritual demon Satan. All right. um and yep, that's pretty much it. That's all I want to go into today, Ak, unless you or Akim, unless you had anything else, Ak.
No, that's all.
Khan, with that, we want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises to
I
Yahweh,
will,
Bahashem,
Bashim,
Yahushai,
Yahushai,
Bahashem,
Bashim,
Barakadash.
Bahakwadash.
Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom wa, abba, shalom.